Vicious, precious. My string tells me I'm a nut job, that I'm too crazy to play. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been some time since I uploaded on this channel. Frankly, I've been going through a lot, so I've got a lot to talk about on a mental health channel now. I've gone through a lot in the last few months, but today I want to talk about something quite specific. Smear tests, cervical screening and colposcopies, and more importantly how it is to deal with all that as someone suffering with health anxiety and anxiety in general, panic attacks, etc. Excuse me, I'm very nervous today, but you'll find out why in a bit. I've also got really bad hay fever, so please excuse my sniffly nose and my voice that sounds really bunged up. It is. So when I was 25 I got my first smear test. Everything was fine, thought nothing of it. It was a bit of a weird experience, but you know, I didn't have anxiety back then, and yeah, it was just sort of like a procedure. I was like, oh well, I don't even like remember it, to be honest with you. Then in 2018, when I was dealing in the thick of the first year of panic attacks and anxiety in general, when it had just taken over my life completely, I got another smear test, and instead of coming back the 3 years later, I got a letter from the doctors saying I have the HPV virus, there's no abnormal cells, but because I have HPV they want me to come back in a year instead of 3 years. Of course this made me massively panic. I was crying, holding the letter, talking to my dad, reading through it. I've got cancer, and honestly, like, I went from naught to I'm dying in a very short time. Because my doctor and I had gotten a good relationship, unfortunately I'm no longer there, which sucks, but I went to see her and I was like, what the fuck is this? She basically explained, which I don't think gets told to people that this applies to enough. She said most people get HPV at some point in their lives. Men tend to be carriers, but they don't tend to show symptoms. They don't tend to have it, they tend to pass it on. It's during sex, essentially. But she said to me that essentially it's a bit like the common cold, where eventually my body will just get rid of it. So they want to check in a year instead of 3 to make sure that it goes away. I was like, okay, but trust me, I counted down that year. Sorry, my first smear was 2019. I got that wrong, sorry. 2020 was my second smear. You can imagine I had spent the entire year panicked about this. I went to the same doctor because she's fucking awesome and she knew that I had anxiety. She was the one that diagnosed me with panic attacks, with panic disorder, with health anxiety, and she'd seen me like in my worst, crying on the doctor's floor, begging for help, where I can't sleep and I'm gonna die. So the second time she did the smear in 2020, she said to me, what I'm going to do, because you're very anxious and I want to put your mind at ease, I'm going to take the swab and then I'm going to do an extra swab in what she called the transformation zone. So it's higher up in your cervix. And she said that if I don't have abnormal cells in either of the things, in either of the swabs, then it will put my panic at ease, that even if I have the HPV virus, I don't have abnormal cells, and they're the things that you need to worry about. So I was like, right, okay. It was a bit extra more uncomfortable. It's essentially a cotton swab. They open you up with a speculum, and it's a really weird feeling. It's a bit like, it's not painful at all for myself. I can't speak for other people. It's literally 30 seconds. You hear, what it is the noise that you hear like that in the side of your fucking cervix walls, and it's like an uncomfortable, weird, like you want to push it out feeling, but it's so quick. And the one up a bit higher was obviously a bit more uncomfortable, but it didn't hurt again. And then I was just asking her 100 questions. I was like, what does this mean? What if I still have HPV? And she said, HPV again is just a bit like a cold, where your body sometimes just takes a bit longer to get rid of it, but the cells is what you want to look for. And even if you have abnormal cells, she made it clear that doesn't mean cancer. It just means that If they find something they don't like, they look into it further, and everything's preventative. None of this means cancer. And she said it so many times to me, and I was like, I need to hear it again. I need to hear it again. Obviously, I spent weeks worrying, and then I got the second letter. Again, you've got the HPV virus, but no abnormal cells. So I thought of what she said. Okay, there's no abnormal cells, but I still got this fucking virus. I went back to see her again. I made another appointment. I spoke to her. She said to me, you'll have to come back in a year. If the third time you have HPV, we're going to send you off to hospital to be checked. And I'm just like, what? Like, what? So she's like, there's nothing to worry about. Of course, I spent a year worrying. And this year was my third one. A couple months ago, I went to get my final smear. I don't think I've ever been that anxious. Like, it was, up to this point, I was like uncontrollably crying, because not because of the smear itself. I was just scared about the results, and I had it in my head, I'm just going to have the worst case scenario results. And then I was getting the smear. I was very tense. You know, she had to do it a few times this time because she couldn't get the speculum in. For anyone who wants to know about the smear itself, I'll say it briefly. You know, you're lying back bottomless on a doctor's bed. They put your legs in stirrups, your legs spread open, and they can see everything. They open you up with a speculum, and then they do the cotton bud, and that's it. Like, physicality wise, there's not much going on. I understand that it's embarrassing a little bit. It's nervous, you know, it's graphic. There's someone in your area. You do feel a little bit violated afterwards because you've been prodded by someone who's not your partner or yourself. Yeah, it's a weird one, but you know it's for the right reasons. It's a bit like when you go to the dentist and it's horrible, but you know you're getting fixed, that kind of thing. So please go to your appointments. And I said to her as I was lying there, I was crying and it was hard to get it in because I was tensing up, and I said to her, do you mind if I sing? It was really weird, and I was like, I'm either going to sing or cry. And the only song that could come into my head was, love will keep us together, think baby now, whatever. And I was just making it up, and it just, comes along singing the song, and it just went round like that. And I wasn't even sure what I was saying, but I was trying not to cry. And she was like, it's a nice song. She did the transformation zone bit again. She was like, then we'll double check, you know. And then I just quizzed her. I was like, right, this is the last time you told me. If it comes back this time, I'm going to have to go to hospital. What does that mean? What would that entail? And she's like, you'd basically be getting a really invasive smear at a hospital. So there'd be, you know, people that wasn't her looking at me with a magnifying glass to really check. And I was like, tell me worst case scenario, tell me the best case scenario. I want to know, like, because I was, even now as I'm talking about it, I'm on edge. And she said to me, none of this is cancer. She's like, if the worst case scenario, you have abnormal cells this time and you still have the virus, that still doesn't mean cancer. You're basically gonna go to the hospital. They're gonna supposedly see, you know, you have these abnormal cells they don't like, and they get rid of them. They burn a layer of your cervix off. I'm not sure if it's there and then or you have to go back. I've spoken to a few people since, and it seems like it's there and then. And then that's it. And then you go back once a year until you get rid of that virus. But it's preventing pre-cancerous cells. So it's like preventing a prevention. So none of this is, she said there's obviously a small % chance, because she can't say it's impossible, that you have cancer. Which I've obsessed about, of course, because, oh my God, I'm going to be that 0. whatever %. But she said 90% of women who go to those things just get sent back to go for regular smears yearly instead of 3 yearly, because everything's fine. I made her tell me like 7 times all of this, and then I called my partner and I told him what she'd told me so I could repeat it back. And I said to him, when I get panicked, please say this back to me. Because I felt reassured. I was obviously still panicked, but she'd reassured me that, you know, it wasn't going to be the C word. A few weeks later, I get a letter, and this is the letter. I'm going to read it to you. Dear Vicious Barden, thank you for coming for cervical screening. Your results show that you have HPV. This is called a HPV positive result. HPV is a common virus and most people will have it at some point in their lives without knowing. Usually it goes away on its own. However, sometimes it can be long lasting and this may cause abnormal cells in your cervix. The cells can over time turn into cancer if left untreated. We also tested your sample for abnormal cervical cells. We found changes to some of the cells in your cervix called borderline changes. In almost all cases, these cells are not, in capitals, found to be cancer, but we would like you to come for a further examination. This examination is called colposcopy. It is similar to having cervical screening. We've requested a colposcopy appointment for you. This will take place in a hospital outpatient clinic. There is more information about this in the enclosed leaflet. I knew that was coming. My colposcopy appointment is today. So I want to say that I know I'll be fine. I hope I'll be fine. I'm going with a friend. And I'm going to make a video when I get back to tell you about the colposcopy appointment and then put this all together. The reason I'm making this, because it is very personal, is because I want people that it applies to go and get your smear test. The doctor has told me many times the only reason people die from cervical cancer or have their, hysterectomies is because they don't go for their smear tests and it develops into cancer without you realising. What I'm about to go to, I know logically, will prevent cancer from happening in my cervix. So it's a good thing. Obviously I'm scared and I'm anxious, but I know that I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to get checked. If they see something they don't like, they're going to take it away. But that they're not going to tell me that I have cancer. What I don't want for people is for them not to go to their smear because they're scared or nervous. And I understand that it's embarrassing, it's nerving, it's scary, some women have said it's painful. I personally didn't find it to be, but I can understand how it would be. But it's 30 seconds to go do and you won't get cancer, It's so important. Something else that's come out of this is I've learned how to feel my breasts. No one ever told me. I don't have a mum. They didn't tell me in school. So when people are like, do you feel your breasts for lumps or whatever? I'm like, I don't know how you do that. And I found out recently that you put your arms up and you're feeling under your armpits and under the curvature and you're feeling for hard lumps. They're all kind of lumpy a little bit, but you're feeling for those hard lumps that, basically get to grips with what they feel like, and then you'll know what's abnormal. I also got recommended use a little bit of oil when your body's wet in the bath, just a little bit of oil, just so you can really get in the crevices, and check it every day. I just want to pass this knowledge on. Whoever this applies to, go get your smear and check. Men can also get breast cancer, so everyone just men feel your balls, go and get your prostate checked. Like, if you're of that age, I don't care, just check your bodies. We need to normalise these conversations. Last year when I was getting my second smear, I did a post about it, and lots of people commented on my status saying they were too embarrassed or scared to get their smear. And please don't be. Understand, take a friend, but it's like a few minutes of your life from the second you walk into the doctor's office to the second you leave. The whole procedure takes 30 seconds and then it's done. I'm terrified for today, but I know hopefully this time in a few hours I'm going to be sat in this spot feeling relieved. Hopefully. Obviously my anxiety is kicking my ass and I'm like, I'm going to be that percent. I'm trying to repeat logic. Even though I'm not believing it, I'm trying to repeat logic to myself that everything's going to be fine. This is preventative. This is fine. This is preventative. I'm going to be fine, And even though I'm not believing this as I'm saying it to myself, if I keep saying it, then maybe I'll start to believe it. But I will make a video when I get back Talk to you guys in a bit. Hey, I'm back. As promised, I said I would make a video when I got back from my colposcopy appointment. That was about a week or so ago. I've been doing so many things since then that I haven't had a minute to sit down and record this. But I'm really eager to tell you what happened and like put a bow on this video so it can be a big comprehensive like experience of what it's like to go through all this. I went to my colposcopy. I took a friend with me. I think that's really important. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted someone to hold my hand. I took a friend who is training to be a midwife, so she's like used to that area of the body and it wouldn't be like a thing where she'd like make fun of me or anything like that. So that was important for me to do. I was very nervous, very nervous. When I went in there, I said to the doctor, I've got health anxiety, I'm an anxious person, I don't want to have a panic attack, you know, can I bring my friend in? She was okay with it. There were 3 of them in there, 2 nurses and her. She was the only one that really spoke to me, but they were all very kind, they all smiled. They all understood my anxiety. I said to her, I need to know exactly what's going to happen. I need to know the worst case scenario, I need to know the best case scenario, you know, the more information the better. Obviously I was shaking, I was like, she said basically it's going to be a very invasive smear and they're just going to look, she's going to have a look. So I was like, right, fuck it, let's just do it. I don't want to talk about it anymore, let's just fucking do it. I said to her, it's very weird, but I'm very weird. I said, can I sing during it? Otherwise I'll just cry. So I was singing. Very strange. And she was like, that's a nice noise. I was like, oh God. But I just had to distract myself. My friend was holding my hand up here. I was trying to make a joke. I had my legs fucking wide open on the stirrups and I was like, oh, when's the baby coming? You know, make a joke. So she said to me, do I want to see my cervix on a screen? I said, no. So I guess that's an option. If you get a colposcopy, you can see what she's doing up there. I did not want to see. I just said to her, just tell me what happened afterwards and if there's any cancer or anything like that. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, I'm going to have cancer. I'm going to have cancer. The first thing she said was, well, there's nothing I can see that I'm worried about. And the relief that shot through my body was like nothing else. I feel like I'd been given another chance at life. It was just so, obviously so dramatic because that's what I'm like, but it was, you know, it was such a relief and I would rather feel like silly, like I said, than come out there with something really wrong. She said essentially the cells had started changing because I still had the HPV virus after 3 years, but they'd not become abnormal. They were borderline, so they weren't quite abnormal, but they weren't normal, probably due to the fact that the HPV hadn't left my body yet. So she wasn't worried. She didn't want to do any further things. What she did do, which was, I'm so glad she told me afterwards because I would have tensed up before, was she took a little part of my cervix out, a bit like a hole punch. So right up inside, it's like a little pinch, but inside your body, it's very strange and very uncomfortable and does hurt for a split second. I was like, ah, a bit like that, you know, but just like very quick. But essentially to do a biopsy, you know, to just double, triple check. I'm waiting for those results. It's been, like I say, about a week and something. I'm still waiting, but she assured me none of the things on this letter are going to say cancer. So waiting for this letter is much less stress than the previous one. I said, you know, even before I left, I said, can I reiterate that nothing on this letter is going to say cancer? And she's like, no. So that was good. So she said essentially the letter would say either to come back in 6 months because of the results and they want to keep a check to make sure it hasn't changed to abnormal, or to come back in a year. So that's what the letter's going to say, that nothing has changed, but they want to make sure it doesn't change. She said one of the reasons that the body keeps holding on to the HPV virus is stress, because it's going elsewhere in your body to look after you in other ways, like with your health anxiety and panic attacks and things like that, that it doesn't, I guess, have time to get rid of the virus. So essentially, guys, stress can kill you, which, you know, is a phrase you don't really think is actually true. But I don't have cancer. I don't have pre-cancer. The thing was a very stressful experience from 3 years ago to now. Every year something being else, and the whole process was horrific. And I still have, you know, to go back in 6 months or a year for a similar thing. But I'm half as stressed out about it as I was before, which is amazing. Because even if the cells do change, she can deal with it, you know, and nothing's worrying her for the moment. So my brain has gone to new worries. I'm going to make another video about health anxiety, hypochondria, because it's actually fucking insane. My brain's now obsessed about breast cancer for a mad reason, and I'm going to go into it in a whole video, and then this aneurysm that I think I'm going to have, I wish my body would let me just breathe for a second without thinking it's going to die at all circumstances. But I do not have cervical cancer. Please go get your fucking smears. The reason people get cervical cancer is because they don't go to their fucking smears. I hope that if you have a letter that says you need a colposcopy, or even if you have a smear test and they say there's abnormal cells or cell changes or you have the HPV virus, that this video, among others, can help you to not worry about it. Like, it doesn't mean cancer. You know, there's not enough information out there on smears and cervical cancer and things like that, and I didn't even know what a fucking colposcopy was till all this, you know. And why am I 33 years old and I don't know that? That's insane. We need to... God, I look like shit. I've just realised I've just done like a 10-hour shift at work, and I'm like, no lighting is saving this, but I don't have cancer, so I can look like shit. It's fine. I'm alive. I think the reason I haven't even made the video yet is because I didn't want to think about it anymore. I was like, right, I don't have it. That's amazing. That's the beauty and curse of health anxiety. Like, you get reassured for a minute, but then it's something else, but it's not this. Oh, I guess he's come to say hi. It's Maisie. Hello, Maisie. Hey. But yeah, so I hope you will all go and book in your smears if you are of the age, or I think someone said to me that they had it under 25, but they just push for it. You know, if there's cancer in your family, if there's problems with smears or cervix stuff in your family, go request it earlier. Get your fucking smear. If this applies to you, get it. It can save your fucking life, and life is beautiful, and I want to live it as long as possible, and I want you all to live it as long as possible. Be safe. Get your smear. Book it in. Tell your doctor if you're anxious. Trust me, like, I know the healthcare system sucks sometimes, but every person I've told about my anxiety in regards to this has just been completely understanding. They've not even been like, oh, you're difficult. They've just been like, of course they're trained in people with anxiety, of course. And they see vaginas every day. It doesn't bother them, you know. They're not looking at it. She even made a comment about how she's never actually looking at it. She's seeing inside you. She's not looking at the aesthetic, you know. So don't be embarrassed. Or if you are embarrassed, it's better to be embarrassed than have fucking cancer, you know. Look after your bodies, look after yourselves. Wherever there's cats, whiskey, no fucking cancer and music, that's where I'll fucking be, mate.